Imagine waking up one day to find your favorite gadgets, clothes, and even coffee costing twice as much. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Well, that's the kind of chaos former President Donald Trump's 150% tariff threat aimed at BRICS nations could have unleashed. But here's the kicker, it didn't go as planned. Stick around because this story has more twists than a roller coaster. Let's rewind. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have been making waves talking about creating their own currency to challenge the US dollar. Bold move, right? But Trump wasn't having it. In classic Trump fashion, he decided to play hardball, threatening a jaw-dropping 150% tariff on goods from these nations. That's like saying, mess with the dollar and I'll mess with your economy. Now here's where it gets spicy. Trump claimed this move would stop BRICS in their tracks. He even suggested it would break them apart. But did it? Spoiler alert, not exactly. And trust me, the fallout is where things get really interesting. To really understand what's at stake, let's take a step back. The US dollar has long been the dominant global currency, used in trade deals, international reserves, and even as the go-to choice for countries looking for economic stability. But BRICS is tired of playing by US rules. They want more control over their economies and less dependence on the dollar. Enter their plan, a new global reserve currency, potentially backed by gold or a basket of their own currencies. Sounds ambitious, right? But this isn't just talk. China and Russia have already been working on alternatives to the dollar for trade, and India has started using its own currency in some international transactions. The momentum is real. Trump saw this as a direct threat and decided to strike back with tariffs. But here's where things start to unravel. Quick question, have you ever tried to fix a leaky faucet by flooding the entire house? No? Well, that's kind of what this tariff threat felt like. Let's dive into why. The tariff threat didn't just ruffle feathers, it sent shockwaves through global trade. Economists were quick to point out the flaws. For starters, a 150% tariff isn't just a slap on the wrist, it's a full-on economic punch. And guess who would have felt the sting? Yep, everyday Americans. Higher tariffs mean higher prices for imported goods, from electronics to essentials. Imagine paying double for your morning coffee because it's sourced from Brazil. Ouch. And it's not just coffee. China, one of the biggest BRICS nations, is a major supplier of electronics, clothing, and manufacturing components. A tariff hike of this scale would send production costs through the roof. Companies that rely on Chinese imports, think Apple, Tesla, and even American car manufacturers, would be forced to either raise prices or look for alternative suppliers, which isn't as easy as it sounds. But that's not all. The threat also strained diplomatic ties. BRICS nations didn't back down. Instead, they doubled down on their plans. It's like telling a rebellious teenager not to get a tattoo. They're just going to want it more. In response to Trump's threat, BRICS accelerated their efforts to move away from the dollar. Russia ramped up trade with China using the yuan, India expanded rupee-based trade with other countries, and Brazil explored more financial partnerships within the group. Instead of scaring them off, the tariff threat united them even more. And here's the plot twist you didn't see coming. This move didn't just backfire. It sparked a global debate about the future of the US dollar. What happens when the world's most powerful currency faces a challenge? Hold that thought. By the way, if you're thinking, this sounds like a Netflix drama, you're not alone. But unlike a binge-worthy series, this story has real-world stakes. So, where does this leave us? For one, it's a wake-up call. The US dollar's dominance isn't guaranteed forever. BRICS's push for an alternative currency highlights a shifting global landscape. And while Trump's tariff threat may have been a bold move, it also exposed vulnerabilities. The response from financial markets was mixed. Some investors saw the tariff threat as a sign of US strength, a way to assert dominance, but others saw it as reckless, a move that could accelerate the decline of dollar supremacy. Even American allies in Europe and Asia began exploring alternative trade arrangements, worried about the unpredictability of US policies. But here's the silver lining. Challenges like these often lead to innovation. The US has a history of adapting and thriving in the face of adversity. This could be an opportunity to strengthen economic policies and reinforce the dollar's position. Policymakers might push for more balanced trade deals, invest in domestic manufacturing, or even explore digital dollar initiatives to compete with new financial systems. Yet one question remains. Is the world truly ready to move away from the dollar? Despite all the talk, the US dollar still makes up about 58% of global foreign exchange reserves. The euro is a distant second at 20%. BRICS would need decades of coordination to create a currency that could match the dollar's influence. But the mere fact that they are trying, that's enough to shake things up. So what's the takeaway? The world is changing and the US needs to stay ahead of the curve. Will the dollar remain king, or are we witnessing the rise of a new global order? One thing's for sure, this story is far from over. And if you thought this was dramatic, just wait for the next chapter. And if you want to stay ahead of these global shifts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications.